Hello and welcome to the video on calculations as part of our functional skills maths course at levels 1 and 2. The learning outcome for this lesson are to learn the methods for calculating with whole numbers. This links to previous lessons in so much as in previous lessons we talked about the number line and talked about choosing a number like 2 and making it bigger by going 1, 2, 3 along the number line. So we were adding 3. So we're already aware of the number line and making numbers bigger and smaller. So in a sense, this lesson is all about the maths functions of adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing. Now with the new reformed maths course, what we need to do is show you how to do this manually, because section A of your exam will be manual calculations. This will have approximately 1/4 of the marks in the exam. The rest of the exam will be taken up with section B, where you can use a calculator, and later on in this course we will introduce the calculator to do these calculations. But initially in this course we'd like you to concentrate on the manual versions that we're going to cover today. Some of you may be aware that the 4 functions in maths are related to each other. So addition and subtraction are opposite functions. Also, multiplication is just lots of addition. So if you had something along the lines of 3 times 2, it means 3 lots of 2. So you're adding 3 lots of 2. Multiplication is the opposite for division, and lots of subtraction is a form of doing division. So for example, 20 divided by 5 is like continually taking 5 away from 20. So 20 divided by 5 is 4. Let's start with the first function, which is addition. Now, in functional skills maths, a lot of the questions have got lots of words. With reformed maths, you still get the basic questions that will ask you to add 56 and 78. However, there are numerous questions in functional skills that don't specifically give you the question like this and will use various words to get you to add 2 numbers together. So here's a list of the words that can get you to add 2 numbers together. Now, the buzzword for addition is sum. This is what is the sum of 56 and 78 is telling you to add the numbers. So the buzzword to get the result of an addition is called the sum. Other words you'll be familiar with, like add the numbers together, what is the total of these 2 numbers, put these numbers together, combine numbers, increase a number by a certain amount, like we saw on the number line, and the word plus, 4 plus 6, and so on. And there are more of these words that will get you to add 2 numbers together. So that's a very functional skills way of getting you to do addition. But like I say, with the reformed exams, you will also be given questions very straightforward like this, 56 plus 78. Using the most popular method, called the column method, what we need to do here is line up our units and our tens, which is why we asked you to use the gridded paper, and 8 plus 6 is 14. So that's made up of 10 and 4, so 14. Now we add the 7 and the 5 to get 12, plus the 1 is 13. So the 3 goes under the 7 and the 5, and the 1 is carried because it goes on to the next units. And that 1 has got nothing to be added to it, so we just put the 1 there. So 56 plus 78 is 134. There are numerous ways to do addition, the most popular being the grid method. However, there are other methods you may have been shown at school that you prefer. And most of these are in the Maths for Life numeracy booklet, which is on Moodle in the resources area. In the booklet, it will show you how to do other methods if you're struggling to do the column method. Let's show you one of the other methods you might like to consider, and this is a chunking method. So if we look at our previous problem of 56 plus 78, what you do is you start with one of your numbers and you break the other number down into bite-sized chunks. So I know that if 56 is added to 4, it gives me 60. So I'm going to take my 78 and take 4 away. So you're only ever doing very small subtractions, so 74. Then I'm going to add the 70 this time, because that's a nice round number to add to the 60, because it gives me 130. So if I take away my 70, I'm left with 4. So all I need to do now is add the remaining 4, and I get 134 as my answer. And now let's look at the next function, which is subtraction. Again, you can get straightforward questions like 96 minus 37. However, in functional skills, you're more likely to come across the words telling you to do a subtraction. So the main buzzword to give the total from a subtraction is the difference. So the difference between 96 and 37. The obvious one is subtract. You can also have take away or minus, representing the sign between the 96 and the 37. Going back to our number line, we have 96 decreased by 37 or reduced by 37. So these are the kind of words they can use to get you to do subtraction. Let's have a look at some of the methods to do subtraction, starting with the column method. So here, again, we line up the units and the tens for 96 and 37, and we start at the right and work our way across. So starting with the 7, can we take it away from 6? Well, no, we can't, because 7 is bigger than 6. So this means we need to increase the size of the 6. And we do this by borrowing 10 from the 90 here. So because we've borrowed 10 from the 90, it becomes 80. And now we can do 7 from 16, which is 9. Now just take away the 3 from the 8, which is 5. So the answer to 96, take away 37, is 59. Again, in the Maths for Life numeracy booklet, there are several ways to do subtraction. So let's have a look at one of those ways, and let's have a look at chunking. So our original question was 96 take away 37. So let's start with the 96. So if we have 96 here, and we can take a big part of the 37 away by taking 30 off it, which gives us 66. So we started with 37 and we've got rid of 30 out of that 37, leaving us with 7. Now if we take away 6, it takes us to a nice round number of 60. So if we take 6 away from 7, it leaves one that we need to take away. So take away that last one and we end up with 59. So 96 minus the 37 leaves 59. Have a go at some of the other methods and decide which is the best method for you. Now, one of the most popular subtractions they like to give you in these non-calculator tests are the larger number has lots of zeros and you're given another number to take away from it. In this instance, we're taking away 143 from 1000. And the reason they do this is because when you use the column method, you need to borrow numbers down the line. So looking at this question using the column method, we have 1000 take away 143. They're all lined up with their various units, tens, hundreds and thousands. And so we'll start at the right hand end. So 3 from 0 doesn't go. We need to make this 10. So I go to the next one to borrow one, but there isn't one to borrow. And we do the same again going down the line. So if I borrow 1 from here, this becomes a 0 and this becomes a 10. Now I need to borrow it further down the line, so our 10 becomes a 9 and this becomes a 10. And again I borrow it down the line and this becomes a 9 and the one we've borrowed can go into here. So 3 from 10 is 7. 4 from 9 is 5 and 1 from 9 is 8. So that's the column method for taking 143 away from 1000. You could also do it using the step method. So if we start with our number 1000 and choose individual units to take away. So let's take away 100 from 1000 and I know it's 900. Then I can take away the 40 from 900. So I know that's 860. And then finally, take away 3 from 860, and I end up with 857. So as you can see, there are several methods for doing subtraction. Have a go at these addition and subtraction questions and see if you can find a method that best suits you to come up with the correct answers. Again, freeze the video to give yourself more time. Did you get the correct answers? If you didn't and you require more practice, then there is plenty of practice on Moodle and that will be given out during the lesson. Just to show you that not all the questions will be given to you as one-line calculations, here are some wordy type functional skills questions that are asking you to add and subtract. Have a go at these and see if you can do them. So in question 1, it's telling us that there are 7,643 people that went to a football match in Manchester. 6,391 people went to a football match in Glasgow. How many people went to these two football matches? So it's asking us to add the two numbers together. 7643 plus 6391. Now using whichever method that you've chosen, let's say the column method, let's add the two numbers together. So we end up with 14,034 fans going to the football match. Remember, the number means something. It's a number of people. Let's have a look at the next question. 250 people work at PFC Textiles, 96 are women. How many are men? So this is asking us to take away the number of women from the total number of people to give us our answer. Again, use whichever subtraction method you feel is best for you. So this time I'll use the chunking method to show you how to do this. So the number we're starting with is 250. If I take away 50, I end up with 200. So my 96, take away 50, leaves me with 46. So I'm going to subtract the 40 this time to give me 160. And I take away the 40 here. And then all I need to do is take away the 6 to leave me 154 people. So 154 people are men. Now let's move on to multiplication. Multiplication, when you were at school, looked like your times tables. And at level 1 and 2, you really should be familiar with this times tables. It will make your calculations a lot easier throughout the course. So the more familiar you get with this table, the easier the maths will become. So doing multiplications, again, could look as straightforward as this, 27 times 36, or we could get multiplications being given to us in words. So there are some buzzwords we need to know that are telling us to do multiplications. And let's have a look at the list we came up with. The most common buzzword to get you to multiply two numbers is called the product. This is the buzzword for multiplication. So what is the product of 27 and 36? Other words you will have come across are times, so 27 times 36, by, so a piece of flooring might be 27 by 36, groups of, so 27 groups of 36, lots of, so 27 lots of 36, or you could do double or triple. The most important word that you will come across on this course that means multiply is of. So 3 of something, a quarter of something. So the word of is something you come across a lot in functional skills that is telling you to multiply. So the word of means multiply. Let's have a look at our manual methods. So the first method I'm going to show you is the most common one, and this is the column method again. Now here we multiply all of our numbers by 6 first, the units, and then we do the same for 3 and add the two results together. So let me show you how to do multiplication using the column method. So knowing my times tables, 6 times 7 is 42. So I have the 2 here and I carry the 4. 6 2s are 12 plus the 4 I carried is 16. So 6 times 27 is 162. Now the 3 isn't just a 3, it's a 30. That's as holding 0 that we need to put in place here. So 3 times 7 is 21. So we have the 1 part of the 21 there, and we carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 2 we had is 8. So the 8 goes in there. Now when we add these two numbers together, we have 2, 7, 9. So 27 times 36 is 972. Now, there are a couple of other straightforward methods for doing multiplication that are a lot easier than the column method if you struggle with the column method. The column method isn't the most popular. I would say this grid method is the most popular. So let's show you how this grid method works. So what you do is you break your two numbers into their place values. So 20 and 7, 30 and 6. And then all we ever end up doing is multiplying two one-digit numbers. So 3 times 2 is 6, and then we have two zeros that we need to take into account. 3 times 7 is 21, with 1 0 that we need to take into account. 6 times 2 is 12, with a 0 that we take into account, and 6 times 7 is 42. Then all we need to do is add these numbers together, and we can do that in parts. So 600 plus 120 is 720, 210 plus 42 is 252. So we add the 720 and the 252, and we end up with our total of 972. The other method for multiplying that's very popular in schools is another grid method, but where you draw these diagonal lines across the various units. And you also have to put it back to front. So you put the 27 across the way and 36 down the way. So let's have a look at how this works. So again, you take the two numbers you're interested in and multiply them together. So 3 times 2 is 6. 7 times 3 is 21. 6 times 2 is 12. And 7 times 6 is 42. Now all we need to do is add them along these particular rows, these diagonals. So all I have here is a 2. I have a 4, a 2 and a 1, so that gives me a 7, and then a 6, a 2 and a 1 gives me 9. So my answer is 972. As I said, there are several methods for doing multiplication. All of these methods are shown in the Maths for Life numeracy booklet. Please have a go at all the methods and see which one you prefer. Now let's take a look at division. Some of the questions could be straightforward in your exams now that say 245 divided by 7. Let's have a look at the words that get you to do division. So some of the common words in functional skills that are asking you to divide, other than divide, are share. So you could have £245 shared amongst 7 people. Split or into. So how many times does 7 go into 245? You could use fractions. So a half or a quarter of a value is telling you to divide by 2 or 4. And fractions themselves are a method of division, and we'll talk about that when we cover fractions later in the course. So let's look at a couple of our more common methods to start with, and these are called the bus stop method. So there's the full bus stop method and the abbreviated version, and I'll show you both of them really quickly. The number being divided goes into the bus stop here, and this is our bus stop, and the number doing the dividing goes outside of the bus stop. All we then do is we work from this side along the queue that's inside the bus stop. So does 7 divide into 2? Well, no, it doesn't. So we have to carry the 2 down. We then bring the 4 down. Does 7 divide into 24? Yes, it goes into 24 3 times. So 3 times 7 is 21. Carry the 3. Now we have a 5 to bring down. Does 7 divide into 35? Yes, it does, exactly 5 times, because 5 times 7 is 35, and they cancel each other out. So the answer to 245 divided by 7 is 35. Let's have a look at that problem now using the abbreviated bus stop. And this reduces the amount of working out that goes on below our division. So the same method again, we start at 7, the thing doing the dividing, and we work along our bus stop. So does 7 divide into 2? No, it doesn't. This time we carry the 2 to here. Does 7 divide into 24? Yes, I know my times tables. It goes in 3 times, so 7 threes is 21, and there's a remainder of 3. And then 7 into 35 goes 5 times. So 245 divided by 7 is 35. Again, there are lots of methods for doing division that are detailed in the Maths for Life numeracy booklet if you'd like to have a look at it. So let's look at another method, for example, chunking. So looking at our original question of 245 divided by 7, I'm looking for chunks of 7s to go into 245. So if I multiply 7 by 10, I get 70. And if I do that 3 times, I have 210, and that's 30 times 7 gives me 210. So now I'm looking for 245, take away the 210, 35. So I know that 7 times 5 is 35. So I've got the 5 here and the 30 there that gave me my 210 and my 35. So it's 35 is the answer to 245 divided by 7. Have a go at these non-calculator questions and see, using whichever method you prefer, if you can find the correct answers to their multiplications and divisions on the screen. Again, freeze the video to give yourself a little bit more time. Did you get the correct answers? If not, you need to practice and practice doing multiplications and divisions. There's no way of avoiding them in the non-calculator papers. Sometimes when you do a division, you'll end up with a remainder. This is not a bad thing, and we're actually required to teach you about remainders. So when we look at 196 divided by 6 and we use our bus stop method, let's have a look what we get. So 6 does not go into 1, so we carry the 1. 6 goes into 19 3 times, because I know 6 times 3 is 18, so there's going to be a remainder of 1. And then 6 goes into 16 twice, and that's 12, so there's a remainder of 4. Now be aware the remainder is a valid result, so the remainder of 4 still has to be divided by 6, and we'll come on to this when we do fractions later. But for now, be aware that when you do divisions, you could quite easily end up with a remainder. Have a go at these 3 divisions without a calculator and see what you come up with the answers, remembering what we've talked about with remainders. Did you get the correct answers? Hopefully you did, and that you're now beginning to understand long division better. So let's have a look at some non-calculator questions, but this time in a very functional skills format. In other words, the wordy type questions that you're going to come across. So for the first one, Kathy has 750 grams of cake mixture. She wants to divide it evenly between 3 tins. How much cake mixture should go into each tin? So this is asking us, once we've read the words and it's telling us to divide 750 by 3. So let's do the maths for that. Set up your bus stop so the number being divided goes into the bus stop, the number doing the dividing goes outside. 3 goes into 7 twice, remainder 1. 3 goes into 15 5 times exactly, and 3 into 0 is 0. So it's 250 grams per tin. The second question. Jake buys 12 bunches of roses for £2 a bunch. He sells all 12 bunches at £7 each. How much did Jake spend on the roses in total? So to work out the total, we have to take the number of bunches and the price he paid to buy them, which is £2. So 12 times 2 is £24 as the answer. How much did Jake sell the roses for in total? So the 12 bunches were sold at £7 each. Now, you might remember that you need to go up to your 12 times table and know that 12 times 7 is 84. If you don't, you could use the box method. So 10 times 7 is 70, 7 times 2 is 14. Add the two numbers together to get 84. If you'd like to practice more addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, there are lots and lots of websites on the internet to help you do this. One of these websites is Mr. Carter Maths, where you can just register and try as many practices as you like. Also, don't forget, Moodle has a lot of questions on there to help you do this skill. Let's have a look at a functional skills type question on multiplication and division. So a class of 20 children and 4 adults are going on a school trip and they need to book a bus. The bus seats people in rows of 4. How many rows of seats will the bus need to have? So if we have 20 children and 4 adults, we have a total of 24 people going onto the bus. Now the 24 divided by the 4, because there are 4 people per row, tells us, if you know your times table, it's 6. So how many rows of seats will the bus need to have? It needs 6 rows. So don't forget to answer the question. Here's an exam style question from a practice paper. Let's see how you get on with this. A music festival sells tickets on its website. There are 120,000 tickets for sale. In the festival news, it says 118,200 tickets were sold in the first hour. So the question is, how many tickets are still for sale after the first hour? You must show you're working out. Now again, this is large numbers, and can you go from words to numbers? So they're checking your skills for whole numbers that we practiced in the first lesson. Let's do this using the column method. So 120,000 is 120 and then 3 more zeros. And we've been given the number 118,200 that we line up below it. So the units and the tens and so on line up in the column method. So going from right to left, 0 from 0 is 0, 0 from 0 is 0. Now here's an example of one of the questions with all those zeros that we practiced just a few minutes ago. So 2 from 0 you can't do because 2 is larger than 0. We want to borrow one for the next column, but we can't because it's a 0, so we need to go to the next column along. So we borrow 1 from the 2, and we turn this 0 into 10. We need to push it along one row further, so we borrow 1 from the 10, turning it into a 9, and this becomes a 10. So 2 from 10 is 8. 8 from 9 is 1, and 1 from 1 is 0, as it is at the very start of the question. So our answer of how many tickets remain after the first hour is 1,800 tickets. Sometimes you can get addition and subtraction questions that involve negative numbers. The best way to deal with these is on the number line. So start with the first number by plotting it on your number line and then decide which direction you're going to go on the number line. So minus 3 plus 5 means we're starting at minus 3, we're going in this direction to add, and we're going 5 in that direction. Well, we know there's a gap of 3 between minus 3 and 0, so we need to go another 2 from 0. So we end up at 2. So minus 3 plus 5 is positive 2. Let's do the next question using our own number line. So we have a number line and we're starting at the number 4. And we need to subtract, so we're going in this direction, 8. So we know there's 4 up to this point, so we need to go another 4 below 0. So we end up at minus 4. So 4 take away 8 is minus 4. Then the next question, again drawing our own little number line, we're starting at minus 2 and we're taking away another 7. So we need to go 7 in this direction, which takes us to minus 9. So minus 2 minus 7 is minus 9. Anything more complicated than this will be on the calculator. And that can also involve multiplication and division with negative numbers. Here's an exam-style question from a practice paper. So work out minus 18 minus 14. Remember to use your own number line if you're at all confused. So we're starting at minus 18. The minus is telling us to go in this direction, and we have to go in that direction another 14. So that takes us to minus 32. So the answer to the question for 1 mark is minus 32. Calculations with negative numbers that are more complicated than the ones we've seen already can be done on your calculator. So here are a few examples of things that might be slightly more complicated. So minus 3 plus the number minus 5 means the number minus 3 is your start point, plus is your addition sign, and the minus sign is a negative number. So be aware that the minus signs in front of your two numbers are this button here on your calculator. The subtract button is this one. This is not a minus sign, this is subtract. These are negative numbers. So have a go with your calculator at the questions that are on the screen. So minus 3 minus 5 in your calculator should give you minus 8. 4 minus minus 8 should be 12. So this is subtract, and this is the negative number minus 8. And this question here, minus 2 minus minus 7, should give you positive 5. So this is subtract, and this is the negative number minus 7. It's the same for multiplying and dividing numbers. When you have a negative number, the minus sign on these negative numbers are this button here on your calculator, the negative sign in brackets. Try these calculations that are on the screen on your calculator now to make sure you get the correct answers. So minus 3 times minus 5 is positive 15. 4 times minus 8 is minus 32. And minus 12 divided by 3 is minus 4. And that concludes the learning outcome for this video. So we've looked at the methods for calculating with whole numbers. So the three main buzzwords that we came across in this lesson were the sum, the difference, and the product. So the sum is the answer to an addition question. So what is the sum of 4 and 6? It's 10. The difference is the result of a subtraction question. So what is the difference between 6 and 4? So the difference is 2. And finally, one of the favourite buzzwords in exams is the word product. This is the result of a multiplication. So what is the product of 6 and 4? The product is 24. And that concludes this video. If you'd like more practice on any of the topics in this video, please go to Moodle, where there will be homework set and additional quizzes for you to practice these topics.